And so it's my pleasure today to introduce you to our next senator and to Ground Zero. Welcome to Ground Zero for the best turnout operation the Commonwealth's ever seen. Let's hear it for Governor Tim Kaine.
Hey, thank you guys. Thank you much. Wow, what a great crowd. Wow, this is fantastic. Thank you all so very much. We're going to need a bigger campaign headquarters next time. This is just great to be here with you, and it's a special day. It's a special day to see so many folks here because it is February, and what this tells me is that you are very, very energized. You know what the stakes are. You know we have no plan B. We're going to win, right? We're going to win. Let me just do a few thank yous and talk a bit, and then I'm going to bring Corinne Charles Dongo back up, the great coordinated campaign director. This is actually not the Kaine Senate office. This is the coordinated campaign office. And so you see not only Kaine for Senate, but you see Jim Moran signs. You're going to start seeing Jerry Connolly signs here. We're going to have a candidate in the 10th. Those signs will be up because this is the coordinated headquarters for the state. Kaine for Virginia headquarters is 6 blocks from my house in Richmond. But coordinated campaign headquarters for the entire state is right here. That's what we're doing. That's what I did when I ran for governor. I put the Kaine campaign in Virginia, and I put the coordinated campaign right here in Northern Virginia. So you are great to come today, and we've got super staffers. And you know, don't we have a lot at stake? Yeah. You know, as Brian and Mark, and then we talked about the legislators. And oh, you know, I do need to correct a misstatement. It's really important in political life not to overpuff your credentials. If you do, you know, somebody might film it, and you know. Mark said I've never lost a race. I ran for 6th grade class president and lost. I ran for 9th grade vice president and lost. I ran for 11th grade class president and lost. Now, clearly I'm a glutton for punishment because I didn't stop. I kept running after those 3 losses. But other than that, I think you were generally, at least, you know, for somebody in political office, in the realm of truthfulness with what you said. But let me talk about the stakes and then just say a little bit about my race. And the stakes are the stakes for all of us in all the races because this is a coordinated effort. One of the wonderful things that we do is we put these coordinated efforts together where we work on not just the Senate race and the congressional races. And we got local races. Alexandria has got city races this November. So does Richmond. So does Petersburg. A bunch of our communities have mayor and council elections this November too. But then there's the big one. The big one is making sure that 13 electoral votes get in the column behind President Obama. And so that's what this is all about, too. That's what this is all about. But the stakes are high. The stakes are high. Knowing that I would be here this afternoon, I decided to come up early and I went to church service, an 8 o'clock service at Shiloh Baptist in Alexandria and an 11 o'clock service at Alfred Street Baptist. And at Shiloh, we sang a song that we sing in my church in Richmond, St. Elizabeth's, a lot. And some of you might know this song, but it just underscored for me the stakes, right? The stakes. It's a wonderful old-timey hymn. We've come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, trusting in His holy name. He's never failed me yet. And then the last line is, oh, 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 can't turn around. We've come this far by faith. And I heard that can't turn around line when it was being sung. And it just like, you know, it just like came out of the choir loft and like hit me like a 2-before right between the eyes. That's what this election is about. It's can't turn around. We cannot turn around. You see the kind of overwhelming sentiment from presidential primary candidates all the way down to legislators in Richmond, and this is happening in Congress and the Senate and state legislators at the national level. There's a degree of doom and gloom being preached about this country, a hardness, a hostility, an anger that's being preached, even a pessimism, kind of doom and gloom about our prospects. And so many of the things that they're saying, whether they're saying about our president or whether they're saying it about women in Richmond, it's a negative message that goes back. You know, Senator Sassel had a funny line in the paper. Said, I don't know why these guys keep thinking they're going to repeal the 20th century. There is a backward-looking focus. You see people with the signs about, you know, let's take our country back. You know, I don't know about you. There's not a single thing about backward that appeals to me. There's not a single thing about backward that appeals to me. And I think that's what this whole coordinated election cycle is about. It's forward or backward. You know, when I think backward, I think of the previous administration that knew how to start wars. Aren't you glad we have an administration that knows how to end wars? I mean, isn't that fantastic? When I think about what the other guys did, turning Democratic surpluses into massive deficits and then acting like it's Democrats' fault that they did that when they had the reins of power. And even today, decisions that they make, like little time bombs, are going off in the budget to increase the deficit every day, and they're acting like this is something that President Obama did. These guys were a one-party fiscal wrecking crew when they ran things in the early part of the 2000s, and they put us into a fiscal and economic lost decade. And it is up to us, as it often is. Democrats are coming in and given the challenge of repairing things, and we are now climbing a ladder. We're not falling deeper and deeper over the chasm, we're climbing a ladder. And so an economy that was shrinking is now growing, and jobs that were being lost are now coming back. And a stock market that was plummeting to the 6,000s and 7,000s is now, nearly 13,000. If you put $1 in the stock market the day George Bush was inaugurated president, it was worth 70 cents 8 years later when he left. If you put $1 in when President Obama was inaugurated president, and I wish I had put more than $1 in, it's worth $1.70 today. Wow. And so what's happening is this. In a time of economic challenge unlike any time since the 1930s, when our economy was plummeting over a cliff as a result of these policies that the other guys put in place, the president and others have come into office, and we're now turning things around, and we're building that ladder, and we're climbing, and we got a long way to go. But the last thing that we need to do is to embrace the policies that put us there and go backward, to give tax cuts that are unnecessary, that explode the deficit without doing a single thing to improve the economy, to deregulate in areas where regulation is important. If we hadn't deregulated a lot of the financial system and opened up risky, practices to banks, and then allowed derivatives and everything to go completely without the regulations that were put in place after the Depression, we wouldn't have seen this kind of a collapse. And what the other side, again, top to bottom, what they're preaching is that same kind of attitude that will bust deficits, that will destroy jobs, that will lead to cataclysms and catastrophes. They're preaching that, and then they're preaching these divisive social issues that don't bring us together, but that push us farther apart. As soon as they get control of the Senate in Richmond, now is the time we want to make it harder to vote. Now is the time we want to make it harder for women. Now is the time we want to take away protections that were given to people so that they could be treated equally regardless of sexual orientation. And that's what they're showing, and that's what we need to stop. And that's what this election is about. Do we go forward or do we go backward? I want to go forward. You want to go forward. The president's taking us forward, and we're going to go forward. We're going to go forward. Now, in my race, I have actually a couple of opponents on the Republican side, and at least the two that I'm most familiar with are George Allen and Bob Marshall. And I want to just say a word about my race, because I'm talking about different things than they're talking about. I mean, Bob Marshall was the promoter of the personhood legislation that has now, thank goodness, General Assembly. Good job, General Assembly. You stop that. You stop that. But since my other opponent, George Allen, has said, well, who cares that they stopped it at the state level? I want to enact personhood legislation at the federal level. That means there's more work to be done. That's what the other guys are talking about, these divisive issues. We're talking about different things. I'm talking about what people tell me about when I'm traveling around the Commonwealth. That we got to fix our economy, we got to fix our budget, and then we got to find common ground again in politics. Fixing the economy. Some of you have heard me give this speech before. At the national level, we can do a lot of good if we just learn some lessons from Virginia. When I was governor, worst recession in 70 years, but we were Forbes' most business-friendly state all 4 years, one of only 2 states with lowest 10 unemployment, and highest 10 median income. Attracted a lot of businesses to move to Virginia, even in the worst recession since the 1930s. And that's not where Virginia was when I was born. I'm 54 today. When I was born, and in the lifetimes of many in this room, Virginia was not an economically dynamic state. Virginia was a bottom quarter median income state. We were poor. And now we're as high as 7th in median income. And no state has moved as far as Virginia has from back to front. So that's an interesting lesson nationally. We want to get the economy to grow. Well, let's learn something from the state that moved from back to front. And I'm so focused on this, and people in this room who've heard me speak will be tired of me talking about this, but I'm just so focused on it. How did Virginia move from back to front? And let's do the same thing as a nation. I'm going to tell you how we did it. When I was born, and in the lives of many in this room, we didn't care about talent. We cared about barriers. We cared about blocking talent. We didn't care about talent. So, we were closing schools down, even in Northern Virginia, rather than letting kids learn together if their skin colors were different. We did not want kids in the same building if their skin colors were different. And what that said, we look at that as being an unfortunate racial attitude, but it was also an attitude about the unimportance of education. The unimportance of letting people get skills. And that's who we were in my lifetime, in your lifetimes. We didn't let women go to the University of Virginia till 1972. Wow. And many of our other state universities had the same rules, even up into the 1990s for one, Virginia Military Institute. And if you lived in rural Virginia and you wanted to get something past high school, we didn't start building community colleges till 1965. And so most parts of the state, you couldn't get an educational talent upgrade or skill set unless you moved away from your home. But what we've done since then is we've broken the barriers down, and we learn together regardless of our skin color. And women have these opportunities, and now women make up significantly more than 50% of our college population in Virginia. And we've built the community college network. And when I say we, let's be fair, I'm talking about Republicans and Democrats. My father-in-law, Republican governor, integrated the public schools of Virginia. We're talking about public sector and private sector and local and state and federal. But here's what we did. We grew our own talent. That's really important. We grew our own talent. Then we attracted talent from around the country and around the world. Raise your hand if you weren't born in Virginia. Now, you can put your hands down, but I put my hand up fast so nobody would be embarrassed. When I moved to Virginia in 1984, the rap was, hey, it's not an easy place to break into if you're not from here. But I came here because I knew something about, I came here because my wife's a better negotiator and she's a Virginia, but I would have resisted had I not known something about Virginia, which was a place of opportunity and talent. And if I asked that question and no hands went up, it would mean one thing. It would mean the state isn't attractive enough to bring people here from around the country and around the world. So we grew our own talent, then we attracted talent from around the nation and around the world, and then we attracted the institutions that want to be around talent. The Hiltons that moved from California to Virginia, they did when I was governor, or Volkswagen in North America, SAIC, CSC, Northrop Grumman, Midwestvaco, all these companies pulled up stakes, moved corporate headquarters from other states to Virginia in the last 5 or 6 years, even though the economy was bad. And I know why they did, because I talked to them. They moved because they like you. They like our people. They like the kind of talent we have and the kind of schools we have. So what I know about the economy, in a nation that is now 16th in the world in the percentage of young people getting college degrees, and we were number 1 for a very long time, and now we've slipped, is take a lesson from Virginia. If we get the talent piece right, education, workforce development, immigration reform, R&D policies, if we get the talent piece right, Virginia showed your economy will be strong. That's the way you build an economy, by building the capacities of people. Now, I'm running against a guy who has a different point of view. He says the economy basically has to be built by drilling more. All right? By drilling more. Now, I'm all for an all-of-the-above energy policy, right? And by that, I really mean all of the above. Like, let's take tax subsidies away from oil and gas companies, and let's make sure the tax subsidies go to alternative energy, the energy of the